The decline. Impact. The card reader beeped 3 times. Each beep was a nail in a coffin I didn't know I was building. Declined, the cashier said. Not unkindly. She was maybe 19, with tired eyes and a name tag that read Jessica. Behind me, the line at Macy's stretched back toward the perfume counters, a snake of impatient Saturday shoppers clutching bags and checking phones. I looked down at the cashmere scarf in my hands, soft, cream-colored, the kind Mom used to point out in magazines when we were kids. That's elegance, she'd say, running her finger over the glossy pages. Not expensive, elegant. Now she was turning 70, and I'd wanted to give her elegance. Can you try it again? I asked, already knowing the answer. Jessica swiped the card through a second time. The machine made a sound like a digital sigh. Declined. Do you have another card? She asked, her voice dropping to that particular frequency of pity that makes your spine curl. I didn't. I had exactly this one card, and it was supposed to work because I'd checked the balance that morning. $847.52. Enough for the scarf, enough for dignity. I started, but I never finished the sentence. Because that's when I heard his voice. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Truth. Marcus pushed through the line like he owned the air itself. 6'2", broad shoulders and a designer jacket, cologne that probably cost more than the scarf I was holding. My older brother had always known how to make an entrance, and he'd never learned to make a quiet one. Marcus, shut up. He grabbed the card from my hand, his fingers tight enough to hurt. You're holding up the whole goddamn line because you can't manage a simple transaction. The people behind us shifted. I could feel their eyes, heavy and curious, the way crowds always are when someone else's private hell becomes public entertainment. The card's not working, I said quietly. I don't know why. You don't know why? He laughed, but there was nothing funny in it. Jesus Christ, Olivia, you're 34 years old. How do you not know why your card doesn't work? Jessica looked between us, her hand hovering over the register like she was waiting for permission to exist. Maybe, I started, keeping my voice level, we could talk about this outside. Maybe you could stop embarrassing this family for 5 fucking minutes. The slap came before I understood it was coming. Not hard enough to knock me down, hard enough that my head turned, hard enough that my cheek caught fire, hard enough that the elderly woman 2 people back gasped and clutched her purse like violence might be contagious. The store seemed to inhale, that collective breath of strangers witnessing something they can't unsee. I touched my face. My fingers came away clean, no blood, just heat and the beginning of what I knew would be a bruise. Marcus was breathing hard, his face red, his jaw working like he was chewing through words too large for his mouth. You're a fucking embarrassment, he said, quieter now, which somehow made it worse. Mom's party is tomorrow, and you can't even buy her a goddamn scarf without fucking it up? Jessica had backed away from the register. A security guard was moving toward us from the entrance, his radio crackling. I'm sorry, I said. Not to Marcus, to the store, to the line, to the universe that had decided this moment needed to exist. Marcus threw my card on the counter. It skittered across the glass surface and fell to the floor between us. Fix your shit, Olivia. Stop being so goddamn useless. He left the way he'd arrived, loud, absolute, trailing the wreckage of his anger like exhaust fumes. I bent down and picked up the card. The security guard was close now, asking if I was okay, if I needed help, if I wanted to press charges. I told him no to everything. Jessica had already voided the transaction. The scarf sat on the counter between us like evidence of a crime neither of us had committed. I'm sorry, she said softly. I wanted to tell her she had nothing to apologize for. Instead, I just nodded and walked out of the store with my face burning and my purse empty and the truth sitting in my chest like a stone I'd swallowed on purpose. Because here's what Marcus didn't know.
The card didn't decline by accident. I'd canceled it myself at 9:47 that morning. Recognition. The thing about being the family's financial backbone is that nobody admits it out loud. It happens gradually, in increments so small you don't notice you're drowning until water fills your lungs. It starts with a loan. Just a small one. Just this once. I'll pay you back next month.
Then it's rent money. Then it's a car payment. Then it's bail, legal fees, investment opportunities that aren't opportunities at all, but holes that swallow cash and shit out excuses. For 6 years, I'd been the safety net beneath Marcus's high-wire act. He'd started a consulting firm that consulted nobody. He'd bought a condo he couldn't afford with money I'd loaned him for a business opportunity. He'd proposed to his girlfriend, now fiancée, with a ring purchased on my credit card, promising to reimburse me once the Henderson deal closed. The Henderson deal never closed. None of his deals ever closed. But Marcus always had explanations. He was a magician of justifications, pulling reasons from thin air. The market crashed. His partner screwed him over. The timing wasn't right. People didn't understand his vision. What he meant was, Olivia will catch me. She always does. I'd caught him through my 20s and into my 30s. I'd caught him until my savings account looked like a cemetery and my credit score dropped like a stone off a cliff. I'd caught him until I realized I was falling too, and there was nobody underneath me but air. 3 months ago, I'd met with a financial advisor named Patricia Chen. She was 50-something with glasses on a chain and the kind of no-bullshit energy that made you want to confess your sins just to get ahead of her judgment. She'd looked at my statements for maybe 90 seconds before setting them down and removing her glasses.
"Who's Marcus?" she'd asked. "My brother." "Stop catching him. It's not that simple." "It is exactly that simple." She'd leaned forward. "Olivia, you're paying for someone else to have a life while yours falls apart. In 2 years, you'll have nothing. Not your retirement, not your credit, nothing. He's not drowning, he's standing on your head to keep himself above water." I'd gone home that night and stared at my laptop screen for 3 hours. Marcus's last Venmo request sat in my notifications. $2,800 for emergency repairs. The emergency was always urgent. The repairs were always essential. The payback was always coming. I'd opened my banking app, started canceling credit cards, started putting passwords on accounts, started building walls where there'd only been open doors. And this morning, I'd canceled the last one. The card Marcus didn't know existed because I'd gotten it for myself, funded by the freelance work I'd taken on nights and weekends. My emergency money. My starting over money. Mine money. I'd known he'd find out eventually. I just hadn't expected it to be today, in Macy's, with a cashmere scarf and an audience. Now I sat in my car in the parking lot with my phone buzzing like an angry hornet. "Marcus, we need to talk. Call me now. This isn't funny, Olivia." "What the fuck did you do?" I turned the phone face down on the passenger seat and started the engine. Mom's party was tomorrow. I'd find another gift. One I could actually afford. The unraveling. The call started at 11 p.m. First from Marcus, 17 missed calls. Then from his fiancée, Ashley. "Please pick up. Something's wrong with Marcus." Then from Mom. "Sweetheart, Marcus says there's been some kind of mistake with the bank." I silenced my phone and took a sleeping pill. I dreamed about drowning, but in the dream, I was swimming. Sunday morning arrived with weak sunlight and the kind of hangover that comes from sedatives and stress. Mom's party started at 2. I'd bought her a small jade plant from the nursery down the street and a card that said, "Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional." It felt inadequate. It felt honest. My phone had 43 missed calls. I made coffee and finally checked my voicemail. Marcus's voice came through, tight and strangled. "Pick up your fucking phone. I don't know what you did, but you need to fix it right now. The bank is saying, they're saying I'm overdrawn.
They're saying the account is closed. Olivia, this isn't funny. This is my life. Call me back now. Ashley's message was tears and confusion. Liv, I don't understand what's happening. Marcus is freaking out. He's saying something about accounts being closed. Did someone steal his identity? Please call us. He's scaring me. Mom's message was careful and diplomatic, the voice of someone trying to mediate a war she didn't understand. Honey, I don't know what's going on with you and your brother, but maybe we can all sit down and talk about it after the party. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. There were others. Marcus's business partner, his landlord, someone from a car dealership. All of them asking the same question in different ways. What happened to the money? I deleted them all and got dressed for the party. The party. Mom and Dad's house looked the same as it had for 30 years, brick colonial with white shutters and a front lawn Dad still mowed himself despite being 72 and having had a knee replacement. Inside smelled like pot roast and vanilla cake, and the dining room table was covered in casserole dishes and wine bottles and a banner that said, "Happy 70th birthday, Jennifer." I arrived with my jade plant and my bruised cheek and a smile I'd practiced in the car. Mom opened the door and immediately noticed. Olivia, what happened to your face?
I'm fine. Happy birthday, Mom. She pulled me inside, her hands on my shoulders, searching my eyes for the truth I wasn't ready to speak. Sweetheart. Mom, I'm fine, really. Where should I put this? Did Marcus do that? The question hung between us like smoke. Behind her, I could see relatives in the living room. Aunts and uncles and cousins I only saw at holidays and funerals. Someone laughed. Dad was gesturing with a beer bottle, telling a story that probably involved fishing or his time in the Navy. It was an accident, I said, which was both a lie and not a lie. Mom's mouth thinned. She'd always known when I was protecting Marcus. She just never pushed because pushing meant acknowledging that her golden firstborn son might be tarnished. He's in the basement. He's been down there for an hour. He won't tell me what's wrong. Maybe I'll go talk to him. Olivia. She caught my arm. If he hurt you, it's handled, Mom. I promise. I left her holding the jade plant and descended into the basement. The confrontation. Marcus sat on the old leather couch where we'd watched cartoons as kids. His head in his hands, his designer jacket discarded on the floor. He looked smaller than he had yesterday. Diminished. Liv, he said when he heard me on the stairs. Thank God. We need to fix this. Right now. What? He looked up. His eyes were red, his face unshaven, his hair sticking up like he'd been running his hands through it for hours. Don't play dumb. The accounts. The cards. It's all gone. Closed. Frozen. Whatever you did, you need to undo it. I sat down in Dad's old recliner, the one that still smelled faintly of cigar smoke from a decade ago. I didn't do anything to your accounts, Marcus. Bullshit. Stop. Yesterday, your card declined. It did. Because you closed it. I did. Why? The word came out desperate, almost a whine. Because it was my card, my money, my choice. He stared at me like I was speaking a language he'd never learned. But I needed that. I was counting on... You knew I had payments coming up. You knew. The condo payment is due Tuesday. The car is due Thursday. Ashley's parents are flying in next month for the wedding, and I promised them... His voice cracked. Jesus, Wiv. You can't just pull the rug out without warning. We're family. We are, I agreed. That's why I've given you $127,000 over the last 6 years. The number landed between us like a body. Marcus's mouth opened, closed. That's how much, Marcus. I calculated it last month with my financial advisor. $127,000. Not counting interest, not counting opportunity cost. Not counting what I could have done with my own life if I hadn't been funding yours. I was going to pay you back. When? I leaned forward. When exactly? When the Henderson deal closed? When the consulting firm started making money?
When the real estate investment paid off? When were you planning to pay me back, Marcus? It's not. You don't understand business. These things take time. 6 years isn't enough time. He stood up, his hands clenched. For a moment, I thought he might hit me again. Instead, he just breathed hard, his chest rising and falling like he'd been running. So what? He said finally. This is punishment? Revenge? You're going to destroy my life because you're bitter? I'm not destroying anything. I'm stopping something. There's a difference. My condo is being foreclosed because you bought something you couldn't afford. My car is being repossessed because you leased it with money you didn't have. The wedding
Is being paid for by me, I said quietly. Or it was, until I realized I was paying for you to marry someone while I couldn't even afford to date, because every spare dollar went into your black hole of a life. Marcus's face went through several colors, red to white to a kind of grayish purple. You're a selfish bitch, he whispered. I'm tired, I corrected. There's a difference. Upstairs, someone was singing happy birthday. Mom's voice rose above the others, happy and clear and unaware that her children were destroying each other in the basement. So that's it? Marcus said. You're just done? You're gonna let me lose everything? You never had anything, Marcus. You had my credit score and my savings account and my willingness to believe you were one deal away from success. But you never had anything that was actually yours. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but I made them hold me. I came down here to tell you something, I said. When you hit me yesterday in Macy's, I had a choice. I could press charges. The security guard asked me if I wanted to. There were witnesses. There's probably video. Marcus's face went slack. I didn't, I continued. Not because you deserve my protection, but because I'm done making your consequences disappear. This time, you get to do that yourself. The foreclosure, the repossession, the wedding you can't afford, the life you built on credit and promises. That's all yours now. You get to fix it or not fix it. You get to explain it or not explain it. You get to live with it. I'm done catching you, Marcus. I'm done drowning so you can breathe. I started up the stairs. Wait! His voice cracked. What am I supposed to do? I paused, my hand on the railing. The same thing I did when I had nothing, I said. Figure it out. The party continued. Upstairs, cake had been cut. Mom was laughing at something Aunt Rachel said, her face flushed with wine and happiness. Dad was telling another fishing story. Cousins' kids ran through the house with paper plates of frosting and chaos. I made small talk. I ate pot roast. I sang happy birthday for the second time when someone decided the first rendition wasn't enthusiastic enough. Marcus came upstairs 20 minutes later. His face was composed, his jacket back on, his smile fixed like a mask. He hugged Mom and told her the party was beautiful, and he was sorry, but he had to leave early. An emergency at work. So sorry, he'd make it up to her. Mom looked at me. I looked at my plate. Both of my children leaving early? She said lightly, but there was weight underneath. Must be something in the air. I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere. Marcus left without looking at me. Recognition Part 2. 3 weeks later, I got a text from Ashley. The wedding's postponed. Marcus said you'd understand why. I didn't respond. 2 months later, I got a collect call from a number I didn't recognize. I declined it. Marcus sent an email afterward. Short, typed on a phone, autocorrect errors left uncorrected. I'm staying with Jake. Lost the condo, lost the car. Ashley's gone. Mom won't talk to me. She knows what I did. I know you don't care, but I need you to know I'm sorry. Not for hitting you, though that was fucked up. For all of it. For using you, for taking and never seeing what it cost you. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't forgive me. But I'm figuring it out. Like you said, I'm figuring it out. I read the email 3 times, and then archived it without responding. Some things don't need responses. Some things just need to end.
Mom's jade plant sits on my windowsill now, small and green and growing. I water it once a week and make sure it gets enough light. And sometimes I think about how things grow only when they have what they need, not what someone else needs, but what they need specifically. I'm figuring it out too. I'm 34 years old with a bruised credit score and a savings account that's slowly climbing back from zero. I work my job and my freelance work, and I have a tiny apartment that's all mine, and a therapist named Dr. Weinstein who says things like financial abuse is still abuse, and boundaries are acts of self-love. I'm learning to believe her. Marcus and I don't talk. Mom says he's working construction now, living in a studio apartment across town, trying to rebuild. She says it carefully, watching my face for signs that I might relent, might forgive, might open the door again. I don't. Not because I hate him. Hate requires energy I don't have to spare. But because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and reconciliation doesn't mean returning to the scene of the crime. Some bridges burn because they were leading you to places that would destroy you. Some relationships end because their continuation would cost more than their loss. Some cards decline because you canceled them on purpose. Last week, I bought myself a cashmere scarf. Cream-colored, elegant, exactly the kind Mom used to point out in magazines. It cost $240, which was almost a month of careful saving, and I wore it out of the store with my head up and my card approved and my dignity intact. It felt like flying, like drowning in reverse, finally learning to breathe.
The cashier, a different girl, younger, with kind eyes, said, "That's a beautiful scarf." "Thank you," I said. "I've been wanting it for a long time." "It suits you." "It does," I agreed. And I walked out into the afternoon with the scarf around my neck and the weight of 6 years finally lifted from my shoulders. And I thought about Marcus in Macy's and the sound of the card reader declining and the slop that echoed through a crowd of strangers who couldn't understand what they were witnessing. I thought about how sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Not revenge, not retaliation, not fighting back. Just stopping, just stepping aside and letting gravity do what gravity does. Pull people toward the consequences they've been building for themselves all along. Just learning to say no and meaning it and walking away with your head up and your scarf soft against your skin and your future finally your own. The card declined. And in declining, it saved me.